have changed the title of today's message so many times. Okay? My last rendition is Taming Our Bears. As I mentioned, this is the first of a series of messages that I'm going to be giving on prosperity. Prosperity is a lot of things. Okay? You know, some people think prosperity is only money and material things. But we understand in Unity that prosperity is every form of good that we experience in our lives. Excuse me. One of the ideas that most of us have grown up with is the idea that to be prosperous, we have to be willing to work for it. And that certainly is the key, according to a man hauled off for an appearance before the judge. The judge told the thief, "You had committed 6 burglaries in a week. What do you have to say for yourself?" Well, the thief responded, "That's right, Judge. If everyone worked as hard as I do, we'd all be on the road to prosperity." I'm sorry. It's funny. We agree here in Unity that having true prosperity does call for some work on our part. In particular, in how we understand prosperity and how we use our mind to accept it, to shape it, form it, and how we choose to use it in our life experience. As I mentioned, many people don't know what prosperity really is. They think of it only in terms of having lots of money. They're not aware of all the forms that God's blessings can take when we grasp what true prosperity really is. One of my favorite definitions of prosperity was written by the late Unity minister and prolific author Eric Butterworth in his book, Spiritual Economics. On page 10, Eric writes, "Prosperity is a way of living and thinking, and not just money or things. Poverty is a way of living and thinking, and not just a lack of money or things." Butterworth continues to say that, considered in the broadest sense of the word, prosperity is spiritual well-being. I like that. Spiritual well-being. He says this involves the whole experience of healing life, sustaining life, satisfying love, abiding peace and harmony, as well as a sufficiency in what Aristotle called the furniture of fortune. That's our material things. The furniture of fortune. Consider the following conversation between 2 hobos who think they know what prosperity truly is. These 2 hobos were stretched out on someone's lush green lawn, and above them was the warm sun. Not far from them was a bubbling brook. It was quiet. It was restful. A peaceful scene, and they were totally enjoying it. "Boy," mused the first hobo contentedly, "right now, I wouldn't change places with a guy who owns $1 million. "Well, how about 5 million? Asked his friend. "Not even for 5 million, drowsed the first hobo. "Well," persisted his pal, "how about 10 million bucks? At this, the first hobo sat up. "Well, that's different," he admitted. "Now you're talking real dough." See what I mean? Many people don't know what real dough is. In the Gospels, Jesus makes quite a few claims that indicate that we are meant to be prosperous. Here are a few of my favorites. Luke 11, 9 through 13. "I say to you, ask, and it will be given you. Search, and you will find. Knock, and the door will be opened for you. For everyone who asks receives, and everyone who searches finds. And for everyone who knocks, the door will be opened." And then in Luke 12:22 to 32, Jesus tells us how we are provided for. He tells us, "Do not worry about your life, what you will eat, or about your body, what you will wear. For life is more than food, and the body is more than clothing. Consider the ravens. They neither sow nor reap. They have neither storehouse or barn, and yet God feeds them. How much more of value are you than the birds. He continues, consider the lilies, how they grow. They neither toil nor spin. Yet I tell you, not even Solomon in all his glory was clothed like one of these. But if God so clothes the grass of the field, which is alive today and tomorrow is thrown into the oven, how much more will he clothe you, you of little faith? And do not keep striving for what you are to eat and what you are to drink, and do not keep worrying. Your Father knows that you need these things. Instead, strive for his kingdom, the kingdom of God, and these things will be given to you as well. Do not be afraid, little flock, Jesus said, for it is your Father's good pleasure to give you the kingdom. How about that? It's God's pleasure to give us the kingdom. Right now, Jesus is not talking about any qualifiers here. If we do this or do that, if we are like this and not like that, it is, and Father is Jesus' word for God, it is the Spirit of God, divine love's pleasure to give us the kingdom. As marvelous as these prosperity promises are, we don't always feel prosperous or see prosperity in our experiences. There are times when we really struggle with the appearances of lack and limitation. Now, in Unity, we don't deny that we have experiences of lack and limitation, but we do say that these experiences of lack and limitation are not permanent, eternal realities. They are relative reality. We experience them here on this plane of duality. But spiritually, they don't exist. Here on this plane, they are opportunities for growth. Expressions of karma. Again, the duality that is evident in this world, on this earth. There are times, however, when our human ego rears up out of fear for our survival. We become bears who aren't very happy. These appearances of lack and limitation are like huge bears pursuing us, coming after us. No doubt we can feel like the man in the story who was out rambling in the woods one day when a bear crashed through the trees and began chasing him. To get to safety, he quickly scrambled up a really tall tree. The bear started to climb the tree, so the man climbed up very high. Soon, giving up, the bear climbed down and went away. After waiting a bit, the man began climbing down the tree as well. Then suddenly the bear returned, so the man scrambled back up the tree. This time, the first bear brought a bigger bear with him, and both bears began climbing up the tree. The man was doubly frightened now, and he went so high, neither bear could reach him, though the larger bear got uncomfortably close. But after a bit, both of these bears gave up, climbed down, and they went away. Well, the poor man was so relieved at his close call, and he wanted to get out of there before any of the other bears found him. So after waiting to be sure they weren't coming back, he looked both ways. He began climbing down the tree. Then, oh no, they were back, and they were going for him again. Good thing he hadn't made it completely down from the tree yet. He scampered high up in the tree again. But soon he realized the bears were not climbing up after him. When he looked down, he realized he was in big trouble now, because each bear was carrying a beaver. Now, of course, in my story, the bears represent any ongoing struggle that we might be having with appearances of lack and limitation in our life. And there are times we all struggle, as I mentioned, with what appears as lack and limitation. And it is in this relative reality. It calls on us to do something about it. Learning to get past these fears and anxieties to realize that our true source of prosperity is God is not an easy thing when we're running just as fast as we can to stay ahead of the bear thoughts. The dictionary defines a bear as not only a big furry mammal with a long body, short legs who will eat us, but also as any problem or difficulty which looms over us and threatens our well-being. A bear is any situation that we have had to struggle with, to get through or past in our life experience. We use the expression, that illness was a bear to get over, because the symptoms lasted me 3 weeks, or I finally got the job, hanging out there in limbo, with nothing showing up on the horizon, and my bills collecting was a bear to get through. When the financial markets have a downturn and investors begin losing money, it's called a bear market. We're going to have a little fun here as I share with you a spiritual exercise for taming our bear thoughts, for blessing our financial experiences. And a little later, this exercise will also serve as the meditation for this morning's service. Now, I didn't forewarn you, but you can do this if you like, or you can do it simply in your mind by closing your eyes and imagining that you're doing it. But you're going to need a pen or a pencil, as I said, or just use an imaginary writing tool. We're going to work on our prosperity consciousness about money. You know, if you wanted to do this in an outer way, you'd run now to go grab a pen, pencil, and a dollar bill, or any kind of bill, okay? But again, we can just do this using our gift of imagination. Later, when you're on your own, I will encourage you to take this as an assignment. I'll speak on that in a moment. Unity co-founder Charles Fillmore shared this idea on the concept of money. He wrote, "Can you believe that we live in two worlds? An invisible world of thoughts and a visible world of things. When we get to the place," he said, "where we understand the right relation between our thoughts, the invisible, and things, the visible, all of our needs, no matter what they are, will be met." Wow, that's a great statement. Fillmore also said something that I think is very important. Listen carefully. He said, "We should watch our thoughts when we are handling money, because our money is attached through our mind to the one source of all substance and money, God. Through our handling of money, we can either become aware of our God connection, or we can allow money to stand in the way of our recognizing that our connection to God as the source of all good is the key to prosperous living. Also important in this topic is Eric Butterworth's statement in Spiritual Economics when he expressed this. He said, "We need to get a new thought about money. Money passes through our hands many times a day. It may be what we consider a little money or a great deal of money, but whatever the amount, we are constantly buying, selling, earning, and spending. Money," he wrote, "is an extension of the person who uses it. Our thoughts and attitudes color it, making it filthy lucre or blessed divine substance." Let's try to get this idea, which may be new to many of us. Your money is an extension of you. Say it to yourself. My money is an extension of me. Eric continues, if we think positively and creatively about our money, we actually multiply its effectiveness. If we criticize and depreciate it, saying, "Oh, I don't have enough, okay, there's not enough," we actually tend to dissipate it and repel it from us. We are criticizing and depreciating money every time we focus on how little we have and what we cannot do because of how little we have. So we must learn to value and to bless the money we have and to share it with others in ways that bless them. So take your dollar, a real one in hand or an imaginary one in mind, and look at the flip side where George Washington is, and see the words, "In God we trust." Now let's remember what Fillmore said about money, that It's a symbol which connects us through our thoughts with the source of every form of good imaginable, God. So let's change one word in this affirmation that's printed on our money. And where it says, in God we trust, change that we to I. Let's make it personal. In God I trust. I-G-I-T. I get it. In God I trust. This short affirmation is so powerful that it can banish our fears about money. We can use it whenever we are concerned, whenever we need to tame our bears of fear, or to give these bears the boot. And now, as we move into a meditative experience, I'm going to invite you to hold your dollar or $20 bill, or whatever it is, or hold your imaginary money in your imaginary hands. Close your eyes. Take several deep breaths, and let's get into this experience. This is our reflection meditation on today's message. So, I invite you to hold this object in your hands. And if you're comfortable with this, I invite you to state out loud with me this revised affirmation. In God I trust. In God I trust. Now we will take this affirmation inside to the quiet place within. Hold this affirmation in thought now and allow it to gently speak to you about any situation or experience in your life right now where you are struggling. Any sense of lack or limitation looming over you like a bear might. A bear which looms over you, which you find difficult to overcome. Your bear might be a health issue or concern about the health of another person. It could be a confidence issue. Something or someone that you fear. It might be a feeling of insecurity that you have. Low self-esteem or self-worth. Your bear might be giving you the messages that you are not enough. A fear or worry for yourself or deep concern for another might be the bear that you are struggling with. So now, silently and positively affirm the statement, in God I trust. About this situation or that situation, you fill in the blank. In God I trust in this situation or that situation. And breathe in that awareness. As in your mind's eye, you might see that situation turning around. You might see that situation healing. You might see harmony being restored in that situation that was troubling. You might see finances turning around. You might see a new job awaiting you. Whatever it is that you struggle with that causes you to be anxious and worried and fearful, affirm to that situation, in God I trust. Not in you, negative situation, but in God. Then, if you would like to, you're invited to choose this day, this moment, to spiritually release what you have been struggling with. In this time of active meditation, where you may spiritually give your concern to God to work out for you, through you, the situation. In God I trust. I-G-I-T. I get it. In giving your concern to God, you might like to employ the inner gift of imagination and create a mind, M-I-N-D, movie or scene, such as imagining yourself tying up all of your fears, worries, and concerns with a ribbon and tying them to a balloon, and then releasing this balloon into the sky. Watch it float up and away from you until you can no longer see that problem or situation looming large over you. Well, okay, if you want to shake up your bear, pop the balloon in your mind now. This will make a lasting impression on your ego self. If the bear looming over your heart and mind is big and heavy, place your worry and fears in one of those big balloons, a hot air balloon, that people ride in to see the world. See this balloon with the burner basket at the top, giving the balloon what it needs, the heat that it needs to lift off. And watch this hot air balloon float upward, carrying away with it the bears that you want to give the boot, until you can no longer see the balloon in the sky. There it goes. Gone, released. And now if these bears try to come back, even if they're packing beavers with them, release them again in consciousness until they get tired of returning and they stay gone for good in your consciousness. Keep this up whenever the bears come out. Or you can create some other visualization which is helpful to you. Now, I'm not a golfer, but when I was writing this, I imagined this. I imagined that I've got all of my bugbears wrapped up in a bundle, and they're lying on the ground, out on the golf course. Now, granted, I can have them all in one great big bundle, okay? Or have each difficulty, each challenge in a different bundle. Now, imagine, if you will try this with me, imagine moving your most powerful driving iron from your golf bag. And you run, you take that golf club, and you make a mighty swing, knocking your bag of bears up into the sky. Up so high, it moves out of the atmosphere, beyond the gravity of the earth, and towards the moon or Jupiter. Pick a favorite planet, send it to Mars, let it get burned up in the atmosphere. Watch as it simply burns up in the atmosphere of space. It disintegrates. You know, it can be hard work to keep from being eaten by our bear thoughts. The Christ speaking through Jesus tells us, "Come to me, all who labor and are burdened, and I will give you rest. Take my yoke upon you and learn from me, for I am meek and humble of heart. You will find rest for yourselves. Come to me, and I will give you rest." Decide right now in your own heart and mind to trust that the Christ which indwells you is moving you now safely through any appearances of lack or limitation into the abundant life that the Christ Spirit brings to us. For in John 10:10, the Christ speaking through Jesus tells us, "I am come that you might have life and have it more abundantly." Rest in this awareness for a few more moments. Decide that you will follow through with any divine guidance you feel inspired to take and to make those needed changes. This is one way of taming our bears, using the imagination and visualization to release those troubling thoughts, feelings. Now breathe deeply and feel gratitude and freedom. Let your body inhale and exhale and feel a sense of peace about your finances. Whatever you experience as lack or limitation before, be at peace. You know why? Because you trust in God. Breathe out, "Thank you, God." Now take a deep breath. Bring your awareness back to the here and now. Become aware of your environment. And that's what I want you to do this week, to follow through with this. use the technique of, if you're writing a check to pay a bill, before you enclose it in the envelope, in some corner, maybe in the memo, or some corner of that check, write, "In God I trust," or IGIT. If you're going to go shopping and you're in line, getting ready to pay cash, take a pencil or a pen and make a tiny IGIT, "In God I trust." Or a "God bless you," a GBY, as you hand that cash over to someone else and bless them. Do that as an assignment this week. So I'm going to be sharing spiritual tools for prosperity, such as the best use of denials and affirmations, how the trinity of faith, love, and imagination work in the process of creating abundant living, how cultivating an attitude of gratitude and appreciation blesses us, along with the metaphysical teachings of Jesus on the subject of prosperity. I will continue this series on the 6th of June, the 13th, and conclude on the 27th, skipping June 20th so that we can pay tribute to all fathers on that Sunday. I think it'll be great fun. We'd love to have you and anyone whom you might like to invite to join us these Sundays as we move through lessons on prosperity. God bless you.